The process of breaking centuries of interdimensional conditioning required direct interface with a nexus, something that would normally be fatal to an unmodified human. But Alicia had spent enough time in the underground environment to develop partial adaptation to the interdimensional energies, and Dr. Hendricks had prepared her with modified equipment that might allow her to survive the experience. They made their way to the Nexus chamber together, Velen moving like a man walking to his own execution. Along the way, they encountered several underground guards who recognized their leader, but couldn't understand why he was accompanied by a surface human in what was clearly a restricted area. Council Prime, one of them said, the surface delegation should not be in this sector. The transformation protocols have been delayed pending my personal review, Velen interrupted, his voice carrying the authority of 3 centuries of leadership. Return to your posts. I will handle the surface humans. At the Nexus chamber, Velen hesitated at the threshold. If you're right about the conditioning, he said, then breaking it will show me everything I've done, everyone I've helped destroy. I'm not certain I can survive that knowledge. Then don't survive it alone, Alicia replied. I'll be connected to the system too. Whatever you see, whatever you remember, I'll be there with you. The interface process required them to place their hands on crystalline control surfaces that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that human consciousness couldn't normally access. As soon as Alicia made contact, her awareness exploded across multiple realities simultaneously. She saw Marcus Velen as he had been before the conditioning, a young scientist named Marcus Valen, working desperately to develop defenses against an interdimensional invasion of his homeworld. She felt his horror as he realized that his own research was being used to facilitate the colonization rather than prevent it. She experienced his capture, his conditioning, his transformation from defender to colonization specialist. But she also saw more. She saw the scope of the interdimensional empire they were facing. Thousands of realities, millions of worlds, all transformed to serve the needs of entities that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Earth wasn't just one more conquest in a long series. It was a strategic position that would allow the Empire to access entirely new regions of the interdimensional multiverse. And she saw the other colonization specialists scattered across dozens of parallel Earths, all carrying out similar missions. The invasion of her reality was just one small part of a campaign that spanned infinite realities. Velen, Marcus, was experiencing his own revelations, his original personality reasserting itself as the conditioning programs dissolved. The process was agonizing, centuries of false memories conflicting with returning genuine ones. But gradually the real man began to emerge. God, he whispered, his voice losing the interdimensional harmonics that had marked him as one of the underground elite. What have I done? What have we done? What you were programmed to do, Alicia replied, fighting to maintain her connection to the Nexus as the energies threatened to overwhelm her human nervous system. But now you can choose to do something different. The invasion fleets are already en route. Even if we stop the surface transformation, the main force will arrive within days. Then we make sure they arrive to find a defended world instead of a transformed one. Can the Nexus be used as a weapon? Marcus considered this, his restored memories providing knowledge that his conditioned personality had never been allowed to access. Yes, but not in the way you're thinking. The Nexus can't destroy the invasion fleets, but it can disconnect this reality from the interdimensional empire's network. Cut the quantum entanglement that allows them to coordinate across multiple realities. That would trap them here. It would make them vulnerable. Without access to the Empire's resources and reinforcements, they would be just another invasion force. Large, technologically advanced, but finite. Can you do it? Not alone. The process requires coordinated input from multiple control points, and it has to be synchronized with disruptions of their power grid across the surface. Your Dr. Hendricks transmission protocol might work, but we need to modify it to account for the quantum entanglement factors. Around them, alarms began to sound. The prolonged connection to the Nexus had been detected by the underground's monitoring systems, and security forces were responding. We're out of time, Alicia said. Can you implement the disconnection from here? If I do it from here, the energy feedback will destroy the Nexus and most of the Undercity with it. But yes, I can do it. What about the people here? The 47 million who've been conditioned. Marcus was quiet for a moment, accessing systems that had been hidden from his conditioned personality. There's another way. Instead of destroying the conditioning, we could reverse it. Use the same systems that created colonization specialists to create something else. Defenders instead of invaders. The risks? Unknown. It's never been attempted on this scale. But if it works, the underground humans could become Earth's defense force instead of its conquest force. The chamber doors burst open, and underground security forces flooded in, led by Commander Theron and other members of the ruling council. Council Prime, Theron called, step away from the surface human. She's interfering with critical systems. Marcus, Velen, stood slowly, and when he faced his subordinates, his expression was that of a man who had remembered who he truly was. I'm no longer your Council Prime, he said quietly. I am Marcus Valen, scientist of the Terran Republic, and I have work to do. What followed was a battle fought not with conventional weapons, but with competing versions of reality itself. The underground security forces, still operating under their conditioning, saw Marcus's awakening as a malfunction to be corrected. They activated weapons that operated by rewriting local physics, turning the air around Alicia and Marcus into substances that couldn't support human life, altering gravitational constants to create crushing forces, manipulating time flow to trap them in temporal loops. But Marcus, with his restored memories and access to the Nexus, could counter their attacks by asserting alternate versions of reality. Where they created vacuum, he restored atmosphere. Where they manipulated gravity, he enforced normal physics. Where they trapped time, he accelerated causality. The conditioning runs too deep, he called to Alicia as they fought to maintain their position at the Nexus controls. They can't break free without external assistance. Then we give them external assistance, Alicia replied, working frantically to modify Dr. Hendrick's transmission protocol to account for the quantum entanglement factors Marcus had described. How long do you need to implement the personality reversal? 47 million people? Hours minimum. We don't have hours. Around them, more underground forces were arriving, including members of the ruling council who had been awakened by the emergency alerts. Among them was Mira, the archivist who had shown Prime Minister Carr the true records of their homeworld. Marcus, Mira called, what are you doing? The surface transformation is scheduled to begin in 6 hours. If you disrupt the Nexus now. The surface transformation is genocide. Mira, we are not refugees offering salvation. We are colonization specialists implementing the extinction of another species. That's not true. We chose exile rather than submit to the colonizers. Look around you, Marcus replied, gesturing to the Nexus and its control systems. This is colonization technology. We didn't escape the Empire. We became part of it. The debate that followed was conducted at the speed of thought, with arguments transmitted directly through the Nexus network to every underground human simultaneously. For the first time in centuries, the entire population was forced to confront the true nature of their mission. Some, like Mira, began to remember fragments of their original personalities. Others, too deeply conditioned, rejected the revelations entirely. Still others fell into a state of cognitive paralysis, unable to reconcile their programmed beliefs with the evidence of their true purpose. The personality reversal protocol is ready, Marcus announced, but implementing it will require a choice from each individual. They have to want to remember who they were. And if some of them don't, then they remain colonization specialists, and Earth faces a civil war in addition to an interdimensional invasion. Alicia finished her modifications to the transmission protocol and activated it, sending the quantum disruption specifications to every surface installation capable of receiving them. The response was almost immediate. Confirmation signals from military bases, research facilities, and government installations around the world. Surface forces are standing by, she reported. They can implement the disruption, but they need the all-clear from us. Marcus was monitoring the response to his revelations through the Nexus network. Approximately 60% are accepting the personality reversal. 30% are rejecting it. 10% are undecided. What happens to the ones who reject it? They become our enemies. 47 million humans adapted to interdimensional warfare, fighting to complete their colonization mission. And the invasion fleets? still en route. Even if we successfully disconnect from the Empire's network, they'll arrive within 72 hours. The underground forces in the chamber had heard enough. Commander Theron activated a device that began rewriting the quantum structure of the chamber itself, trying to force Alicia and Marcus away from the Nexus controls. "We will not allow you to condemn our people to extinction," he declared. "The surface transformation will proceed as scheduled." "Then you leave us no choice," Marcus replied. He placed both hands on the primary Nexus control interface, and his consciousness expanded to encompass the entire underground network. What happened next could only be described as a war fought in the realm of pure thought. Marcus, with his restored memories and understanding of the true systems, battled against the collective conditioning of 47 million minds. Each individual became a battlefield where original personality fought against programmed identity. Alicia, still connected to the system, experienced the conflict as a series of overlapping nightmares and revelations. She saw underground humans remembering their original lives, their families, their hopes and dreams before the conditioning. She saw others fighting desperately to maintain the only identity they had ever known, even if it was false. And she saw the terrible cost of the awakening process. Minds that couldn't reconcile the conflicts, personalities that simply stopped functioning under the strain. "Marcus," she called, "the system is overloading. If you push much harder, you'll kill them all." "If I don't push hard enough, they'll kill everyone on the surface," he replied, his voice strained with the effort of maintaining the connection. "I can break the conditioning for most of them, but not all. Some are too far gone." "How many?" "Maybe 15 million. They'll retain their colonization programming and their loyalty to the Empire. We'll have to fight them. 15 million against the rest of us. 15 million interdimensional warriors with technology that can rewrite reality. It's not going to be easy." The battle in the Nexus chamber was reaching its climax. The physical space around them had become a chaos of competing realities as different factions asserted their versions of what should exist. Gravity pulled in multiple directions simultaneously. Time moved at different rates in different parts of the room. The walls flickered between states of matter that had no names in any human language. And through it all, Marcus continued his work of awakening, fighting to restore as many original personalities as possible before the strain killed him. "It's done," he announced finally, his voice barely audible over the dimensional chaos. "The reversal protocol is complete. 32 million have been successfully awakened. 15 million remain conditioned. And the disconnection from the Empire. Ready to implement on your signal." Alicia activated her communication with the surface. "All stations, this is Commander Ward. Implement quantum disruption on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." Around the world, the few remaining human installations activated devices based on Dr. Hendrick's specifications. The effect was immediately visible through the Nexus. The quantum entanglement network that connected Earth to the interdimensional empire began to collapse, severing the connections that had allowed the colonization process to proceed. But the cost was severe. The feedback from a disconnection tore through the Nexus like a quantum storm, and the energy had to go somewhere. Much of it was channeled into the awakening process, accelerating the personality reversals, but making them traumatic beyond description. Marcus, still connected to the primary interface, bore the brunt of the feedback. Alicia watched in horror as the energies began to tear his adaptive biology apart at the cellular level. "The system is collapsing," he managed to say. "The underground infrastructure will fail within minutes. You need to get your people to the surface." "What about you?" "Someone has to maintain the disconnection until the Empire's invasion fleets arrive. If they can re-establish the quantum entanglement, they'll complete the colonization process before your surface forces can mount a defense." "How long can you hold it?" "Long enough." Marcus's form was becoming translucent as the interdimensional energies consumed his physical structure. "The awakened underground humans will help. We remember who we were before the conditioning, and we remember what we lost. We won't let it happen to another world." The chamber around them was beginning to collapse as the Nexus went critical. Alicia had perhaps seconds to escape before the entire deep structure became uninhabitable. "Tell the surface world," Marcus said, his voice fading as his consciousness dispersed across multiple dimensions, that not all exiles come as conquerors. Some come as allies. Alicia ran. Alicia emerged from the collapsing Undercity to find a world transformed, but not in the way the colonizers had intended. The interdimensional storms still raged, but their patterns had changed. Instead of reshaping reality according to alien designs, they now fluctuated chaotically as competing forces battled for control. Dr. Hendricks, General Brooks, and Prime Minister Carr were waiting at the emergency extraction point with a contingent of awakened underground humans led by Mira, who had successfully recovered her original personality and memories. The disconnection worked, Hendricks reported, but it's not stable. The Empire's invasion fleets are implementing quantum bridging protocols to re-establish contact. We have maybe 60 hours before they succeed. And the situation below? 15 million underground humans remain loyal to the colonization mission, Mira said, her voice heavy with grief. They've sealed themselves into the deeper levels and are working to restore the Nexus. If they succeed, they'll be able to override the disconnection and complete the surface transformation. What about the 32 million who were awakened? Most are in psychological shock from the personality restoration process. They remember their original lives, their families, everything they lost when they were conditioned. But they also remember everything they've done as colonization specialists. The guilt is overwhelming. General Brooks was monitoring global communications. Surface military forces are reporting similar chaos worldwide. The storms are destabilizing, but not dissipating. Major population centers are either destroyed or transformed beyond recognition. We're looking at billions of refugees with nowhere to go. But we're still human, Prime Minister Carr added. The colonization process was interrupted before it could be completed. Earth is damaged, but still Earth. A new voice cut through their discussion. One of the awakened underground humans, a woman named Elena, who had once been a teacher before her conditioning. The loyal colonizers aren't our only problem, she said. The Empire designed us to be adaptable. The 15 million who remain conditioned will begin evolving new strategies now that their original plan has failed. They have access to technologies that can create new forms of interdimensional warfare. What kind of new forms? Alicia asked. Reality viruses, causal weapons, probability bombs, technologies that don't just destroy matter and energy, but destroy the logical consistency that allows matter and energy to exist in the first place. The implications were staggering. Earth was facing not just an interdimensional invasion, but a war against enemies who could weaponize the fundamental laws of physics. However, Elena continued, we awakened ones retain all the knowledge and capabilities we developed as colonization specialists. We can fight them on equal terms. 32 million against 15 million, Brooks calculated. Not great odds when you factor in their technological advantages. It's not about numbers, Mira explained. It's about motivation. They fight to complete a mission they've been programmed to believe in. We fight to prevent the extinction of free will itself. Over the following hours, the situation continued to evolve rapidly. The awakened underground humans established communication with surface military forces, sharing technological knowledge that had previously been beyond human understanding. The result was an unprecedented military alliance between surface humans and their former would-be conquerors. But the loyal colonizers weren't passive. They began launching reality-altering attacks on surface positions, turning military bases into abstract mathematical concepts, transforming weapons into philosophical arguments, converting soldiers into living equations that could only exist in theoretical space. The war that followed could only be described as a conflict between different versions of existence itself. Surface forces, enhanced with underground technology, fought battles where victory meant successfully asserting their version of what should be real. A tank didn't defeat an enemy position by firing shells at it. It defeated the enemy position by convincing local reality that the position had never existed in the first place. Awakened underground humans served as both soldiers and teachers, helping surface commanders understand how to fight in a reality where the laws of physics were tactical assets rather than immutable constants. Think of it as applied philosophy, Elena explained to a group of bewildered NATO officers. Your enemy says that gravity should pull upward. You must be more convincing in your argument that gravity pulls downward. Whoever can present the most logically consistent version of reality wins the engagement. Meanwhile, the Empire's invasion fleets continued their approach, their quantum bridging protocols slowly overcoming the disconnection that Marcus had sacrificed himself to create. Long-range sensors showed massive structures that existed in dimensions human instruments could barely detect, carrying forces that had perfected interdimensional warfare across countless realities. Best estimates give us 48 hours before the main force arrives, General Brooks reported during a strategy meeting held in a reality-stabilized bunker beneath the ruins of Geneva. After that, we're not just fighting 15 million colonizers. We're fighting the entire interdimensional empire. Then we'd better make those 48 hours count, Alicia replied. The plan that emerged from the desperate alliance between surface humans and awakened underground forces was audacious in its scope and terrifying in its implications. If they couldn't prevent the Empire's arrival, they would ensure that the Empire arrived to find not a conquered world, but a defended fortress. Dr. Hendricks had been working with awakened underground scientists to develop what they called reality anchors, devices that could stabilize local physics and prevent interdimensional manipulation. The technology was based on the same principles that powered the Nexus, but reversed to create stable zones rather than transform them. Each anchor can stabilize approximately 50 square kilometers, she explained to the assembled commanders. Within that zone, normal physics applies regardless of what interdimensional forces try to impose. It's not perfect. Concentrated assault can overwhelm the stabilization, but it gives us defined battlefields where our conventional forces can operate effectively. General Brooks had been coordinating the deployment of these anchors at strategic points around the globe, creating a network of defended positions that could serve as rally points for resistance forces. The key is redundancy, he reported. The Empire's strategy depends on their ability to rewrite reality across large areas simultaneously. If we can force them to fight for each stabilized zone individually, we negate their primary advantage. But the loyal colonizers weren't waiting passively. They had access to the deeper levels of the Undercity and were working to restore the Nexus connection to the Empire. Their attacks on the surface had become increasingly sophisticated, targeting not just military installations, but the psychological and cultural foundations of human society. Prime Minister Carr was dealing with the civilian impact of reality warfare. They're not just attacking our positions, she reported. They're attacking our concepts. In London, they've turned the idea of democracy into a physical object that can be destroyed. In Washington, they've made the Constitution exist as a living entity that's currently under siege by weaponized legal precedents. Mira had been working with other awakened underground leaders to counter these conceptual attacks. We're implementing defensive philosophy protocols, she explained. If they attack an abstract concept, we have to defend it with equally abstract reasoning. It's exhausting work. You can't take breaks from philosophical warfare without risking the complete dissolution of the ideas you're protecting. Meanwhile, Elena had been leading efforts to reach the loyal colonizers and attempt additional personality reversals. The results have been limited but encouraging. We've successfully awakened another 2 million, she reported. But the remaining 13 million have implemented cognitive shields that make them immune to the reversal process. They've essentially chosen to remain programmed rather than face the psychological trauma of remembering their original selves. Can we break through the shields? Alicia asked. Not without destroying their minds entirely. And even if we could, we're running out of time. The Empire's arrival will make any additional conversions impossible. The situation became more desperate when long-range sensors detected changes in the approaching invasion fleet. The massive interdimensional structures were accelerating, their estimated arrival time dropping from 48 hours to 36. They're concerned about our disconnection from their network, Dr. Hendricks observed. They're advancing their timeline to prevent us from establishing more comprehensive defenses. How comprehensive are our current defenses? Alicia asked. General Brooks consulted his tactical displays. We have reality anchors protecting major population centers and strategic military installations. Awakened underground forces are stationed at each position to provide interdimensional combat capabilities. Surface military forces have been equipped with modified weapons that can operate in destabilized reality zones. And our chances? Against the loyal colonizers? Even odds, maybe slightly in our favor, against the Empire's main force. Brooks shook his head. Unknown. We have no reliable intelligence on their capabilities or numbers. That evening, as Alicia stood in the command center watching global displays that showed the current state of Earth, she was struck by the strange beauty of their situation. The planet below them flickered between states of existence, some areas stabilized by reality anchors and showing familiar landscapes, others transformed by interdimensional energies into structures that belonged in dreams rather than waking life. Humanity's greatest crisis had also become its greatest opportunity. The alliance with the awakened underground humans had accelerated technological development by centuries. Surface humans were learning to manipulate interdimensional forces, to fight with weapons that operated on pure logic, to defend concepts as well as territories. We're becoming something new, Elena observed, joining Alicia at the observation windows. Not just surface humans or underground humans, but something that transcends both. The war is changing us. Is that good or bad? I don't know, but it's necessary. The Empire has conquered thousands of realities by finding species that couldn't adapt to interdimensional warfare. We're proving that humans can adapt, can evolve, can become something the Empire hasn't encountered before. And if we lose, then we lose as humans, not as victims. That matters more than you might think. As if summoned by their conversation, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. The long-range sensors were detecting new activity from the approaching invasion fleet. They're launching advanced scouts, General Brooks reported, studying the incoming data. Smaller vessels, moving at incredible speeds. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. Each one capable of establishing local reality distortion fields. Dr. Hendricks was already working on countermeasures. The reality anchors should hold against individual scouts, but if they coordinate their distortion fields, they could overwhelm our stabilization network. Then we don't let them coordinate, Alicia decided. Alert all stations. We meet the advanced scouts in space before they can establish coordinated fields. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan they had. Earth's defense would begin not on the surface, but in the interdimensional void between realities. The engagement began in a region of space-time that existed approximately 3 million kilometers above Earth's surface and 17 dimensions removed from normal reality. Human sensors couldn't detect it directly, but the awakened underground humans could perceive the battle through their enhanced consciousness. Earth's defense fleet consisted of hastily modified surface vessels crewed by joint human underground teams, supported by structures that the awakened colonizers could manifest directly from interdimensional energy. It was an improvised force facing enemies that had perfected space-time combat across millennia of conquest. Alicia found herself aboard the command vessel, a modified space station that existed simultaneously in normal space and multiple parallel dimensions. Around her, awakened underground humans worked at control stations that resembled crystalline musical instruments more than conventional interfaces. Advanced scouts are entering engagement range, Elena reported. Her consciousness expanded across multiple dimensional viewing arrays. Count is approximately 12,000 individual units, each one. She paused, her enhanced perception processing information that normal human senses couldn't accommodate. Each one is not exactly a ship. They're more like mobile reality storms. The first exchange of fire was unlike anything in human military experience. The Empire's scouts didn't launch projectiles or energy beams. They launched alternate versions of causality. Where their attack struck, cause and effect became disconnected. Equipment stopped working not because it was damaged, but because the logical relationship between activation and function had been severed. Earth's defenders responded with weapons that the awakened underground humans had developed during their centuries of adaptation. Reality anchors projected zones of stable physics. Probability manipulators altered the likelihood of enemy attacks succeeding. And in the most desperate moments, human consciousness itself became a weapon, asserting the defender's version of what should exist against the Empire's imposed alternatives. We're holding them, General Brooks reported from his position aboard another defense vessel. But it's costing us. Every engagement drains our reality anchor systems. We can't sustain this level of interdimensional combat indefinitely. Dr. Hendricks was monitoring the Empire's tactics from her mobile laboratory. They're probing our defenses, testing our capabilities. These scouts aren't trying to win. They're gathering intelligence for the main force. How long until the main force arrives? Alicia asked. 18 hours. Maybe less if they accelerate based on what they learn from this engagement. The battle continued for 6 hours, with neither side achieving decisive advantage. Earth's defenders successfully prevented the scouts from establishing coordinated reality distortion fields over major population centers, but the cost was severe. 3 reality anchor installations had been overwhelmed and destroyed. 2 defense vessels had been translated into dimensions where they could no longer influence normal space-time. But humanity had also learned. The joint human underground crews were adapting to interdimensional combat with surprising speed. Surface humans were developing intuitive understanding of reality manipulation. Underground humans were remembering combat techniques from their original personalities that had been suppressed by their conditioning. We're becoming something the Empire hasn't seen before, Elena observed as the first wave of scouts withdrew to regroup. Not conquered humans serving as colonization specialists, but free humans fighting alongside awakened colonization specialists. They don't have tactical protocols for this scenario. Is that enough to win? Alicia asked. It's enough to surprise them. In interdimensional warfare, surprise is a decisive advantage. But the Empire was also adapting. The second wave of scouts arrived with modified tactics, attempting to exploit weaknesses they had identified in Earth's defenses. Instead of direct reality manipulation, they began implementing what Dr. Hendricks called logic viruses, self-replicating arguments that could convince defensive systems to deactivate themselves. The reality anchors are interpreting the viruses as valid maintenance commands, she reported frantically. They're shutting down voluntarily because they've been persuaded that shutdown is the correct operational state. The awakened underground humans countered with philosophical warfare protocols, engaging the logic viruses in abstract debates about the nature of existence, duty, and proper function. The result was a form of combat that took place entirely in the realm of pure reason. This is insane, General Brooks muttered, watching his tactical displays show battles between competing syllogisms. We're fighting a war where the outcome depends on winning arguments about whether our weapons should exist. Insane, but effective, Mira replied. She had been coordinating the philosophical defenses from her position in the deep reality anchor bunkers. The Empire's logic viruses are sophisticated, but they're based on assumptions about conquered populations. Free populations generate different logical frameworks. The second wave of scouts was eventually repelled, but the cost was higher than the first. 7 more reality anchor installations had been lost, and 2 major population centers were now vulnerable to direct attack when the main force arrived. We can't sustain losses at this rate, Prime Minister Carr observed during the tactical review. At this rate of attrition, we'll have no functional defenses when the Empire's main force arrives. Then we change tactics, Alicia decided. Instead of trying to defend everything, we concentrate our remaining resources on a few critical positions. Make the Empire fight for every stabilized zone. That means abandoning millions of people to whatever the Empire does to undefended areas, Brooks pointed out. I know, but if we spread our defenses too thin, we lose everything. If we concentrate them, we might save something. It was the kind of impossible choice that defined humanity's new reality. Every decision involved sacrificing some lives to potentially save others. Every tactical advantage came at a price that no human civilization had ever been asked to pay. But they were no longer purely human civilization. The alliance with the awakened underground forces had created something new, a hybrid society that combined surface humanity's innovation and determination with the awakened colonizers' interdimensional knowledge and capabilities. Concentrate the defenses, Elena agreed. But not just the technological defenses. Concentrate the people too. Bring everyone we can into the stabilized zones. If the Empire wants Earth, make them fight for every human life individually. And if we lose, then we lose as ourselves, not as slaves. And maybe, just maybe, we make victory so costly that the Empire thinks twice before attacking the next reality. The Empire's main invasion force arrived 36 hours later, and its scope defied human comprehension. The structures that emerged from interdimensional space weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were mobile realities, pocket universes designed to impose the Empire's version of existence wherever they traveled. From Earth's remaining observation posts, the invasion looked like the dawn of a new cosmos. Alien geometries unfolded across the sky, following mathematical principles that hurt to perceive directly. Colors that had no names in any human language painted aurora across heavens that flickered between familiar blue and configurations of space-time that belonged to entirely different types of physics. Alicia stood in the primary command bunker beneath what had once been Geneva, watching displays that showed the last stand of human independence. Around her, the Joint Command staff worked at stations that blended human technology with awakened underground innovations. Their consciousnesses expanded across multiple dimensions to coordinate Earth's defense. Final count shows 47 major invasion structures. General Brooks reported, his enhanced awareness processing data from sensors that existed partially outside normal space-time. Each one appears to be capable of transforming reality across continental areas. Our remaining defenses: 19 reality anchor installations still functional. Approximately 200 million people secured within stabilized zones. Joint Human Underground Defense Forces, numbering roughly 15 million combat-capable individuals. Dr. Hendricks was monitoring the Empire's initial approach patterns. They're not attacking immediately. They're studying our defenses, trying to understand how we've maintained independence despite the disconnection from their network. How long do we have? Hours. Maybe less. They're implementing reality probes, small-scale tests of our stabilization systems. Elena, now serving as liaison between the Surface Command and the awakened underground forces, provided additional intelligence. The loyal colonizers are beginning their final push from the deep undercity levels. They've restored partial connection to the Empire's network and are coordinating with the invasion force. 13 million of them, plus whatever the Empire brought, Alicia calculated. Against our 15 million defenders and whatever civilian population we can arm with interdimensional weapons. The numbers aren't the real problem, Mira observed. The problem is that the Empire has had time to develop new tactics based on what they learned from the scout engagements. They know our capabilities now. As if summoned by her words, the first reality probe struck the Geneva stabilization zone. The attack came not as energy or matter, but as a fundamental argument about the nature of existence. The probe argued, with mathematical precision, that the laws of physics governing the stabilized zone were logically inconsistent and should be replaced with more coherent alternatives. The reality anchor responded with its own mathematical arguments, defending the consistency of normal physics and the validity of the stabilization field. But the Empire's probe was sophisticated, countering each defensive argument with increasingly complex logical structures. The anchor is holding, but it's being forced to dedicate increasing processing power to the philosophical battle, Dr. Hendricks reported. If this continues, it won't have enough capacity left to maintain the stabilization field. Can we reinforce it? Only by drawing power from other installations, which leaves them vulnerable to similar attacks. It was a classic divide-and-conquer strategy, but implemented with tools that could rewrite the fundamental laws of reality. The Empire wasn't trying to destroy Earth's defenses. They were trying to convince Earth's defenses to destroy themselves. We need a new approach, Alicia decided. Something they haven't planned for. Such as? General Brooks asked. Alicia looked around the command center, at the impossible fusion of human and awakened underground personnel working together to defend their shared reality. An idea began to form, desperate, unprecedented, and utterly insane. What if we don't fight them? She said slowly. I'm sorry. What if we don't fight them? What if we join them? The silence that followed was heavy with implications and confusion. Explain, Elena said carefully. The Empire's entire strategy is based on conquest, imposing their reality on ours, transforming us into colonization specialists for the next target. But what if we offer to become something else? Not colonization specialists, but interdimensional allies. Dr. Hendricks was the first to understand. You want to negotiate an alliance with an interdimensional empire that has conquered thousands of realities. I want to offer them something they've never encountered before, a reality that can defend itself effectively enough to be useful as an ally rather than a conquest. General Brooks looked skeptical. And you think they'll be interested in allies? I think they'll be interested in not having to fight a war that's already cost them significant resources and will cost them much more before it's over. The scout engagements prove that we can hurt them. The question is whether we can hurt them enough to make alliance more attractive than conquest. And if they say no, then we continue fighting. But if they say yes, we survive as an independent reality while gaining access to interdimensional knowledge that could transform human civilization. The debate that followed was conducted at the speed of thought, with arguments transmitted across multiple dimensions to every defender simultaneously. The awakened underground forces were particularly divided. Some saw alliance as a betrayal of everything they had suffered under Empire conditioning. Others saw it as the only path to long-term survival. The risk is enormous, Mira pointed out. If we're wrong about their willingness to negotiate, we reveal our entire defensive strategy and make conquest easier for them. The risk of continued fighting is also enormous, Elena countered. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy with thousands of years of experience in interdimensional warfare. But we've proven we can adapt, Prime Minister Carr added. We've developed from a primitive surface civilization to interdimensional combatants in a matter of weeks. That kind of adaptability might be exactly what the Empire needs in an ally. In the end, the decision came down to a simple question. Did humanity want to survive as itself or die as itself? We try negotiation, Alicia decided, but we prepare for the alternative. If talks fail, we implement final defense protocols and make victory as costly as possible for them. And how do we approach an interdimensional empire for negotiations? General Brooks asked. Elena smiled grimly. The same way they've been approaching us. Through reality manipulation and philosophical argument. We present them with a logical case for alliance instead of conquest. The message that went out to the Empire's invasion force was unlike any diplomatic communication in human history. It was transmitted through dimensions that existed as pure mathematics, composed of arguments that challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of conquest and cooperation, and delivered with philosophical precision that had taken humanity weeks to develop. The response came within hours, and it changed everything. 6 months after the Empire's main invasion force arrived in Earth's reality, Ambassador Alicia Ward stood in the interdimensional embassy that had been constructed in the space where Geneva used to exist. The building existed simultaneously in 17 different dimensions, serving as neutral ground where representatives from multiple realities could meet without imposing their local physics on each other. The negotiations had been unlike anything in human experience, conducted in languages that were pure mathematics, with arguments that spanned multiple realities, and with concepts that challenged every assumption about existence, consciousness, and the nature of civilization itself. The Empire, it turned out, had been as surprised by Earth's resistance as Earth had been by the Empire's invasion. In thousands of years of interdimensional conquest, they had never encountered a reality that could adapt to their warfare methods quickly enough to pose a genuine threat. Humanity's alliance with the awakened underground forces had created something unprecedented, a civilization that could evolve its fundamental nature in response to existential challenges. The final terms are acceptable to all parties, reported Marcus Velen, who had somehow survived his sacrifice of the Nexus by distributing his consciousness across multiple dimensions before his physical form dissolved. He now served as Earth's primary liaison with the awakened underground forces, his personality a fusion of his original identity and the interdimensional adaptations he had undergone. Earth retains independence and sovereignty over its local reality, Alicia read from the treaty documents. In exchange, Earth provides interdimensional defense services for Empire frontier realities and contributes to exploration of hostile dimension clusters. Dr. Hendricks, now serving as Earth's Director of Interdimensional Research, added her own summary. We've gone from single reality civilization to the Empire's primary military ally in less than a year. The technological exchanges alone will advance human development by millennia. And the loyal colonizers? General Brooks asked. He had been appointed as Earth's Interdimensional Defense Coordinator, responsible for managing the military aspects of the alliance. 13 million humans remain conditioned for colonization duties, Elena replied. She now served as Director of Underground Relations, helping integrate the awakened colonizers into Earth's new hybrid society. The Empire has agreed to transfer them to frontier realities where their skills are needed for defensive rather than offensive purposes. They'll never be free, Prime Minister Carr observed sadly. But they'll never be used to destroy another free civilization, Mira added. It's not perfect justice, but it's better than extinction. The costs of Earth's transformation had been enormous. 2 billion people had died during the interdimensional storms and the reality warfare that followed. Major cities around the world had been transformed beyond recognition, their populations absorbed into architectural structures that existed according to alien physics. The planet itself flickered between states of existence, with some regions operating under normal physics, while others followed laws that belonged to dreams rather than science. But humanity had survived. More than survived, they had evolved. The alliance with the awakened underground forces had created a new form of civilization that could exist across multiple realities simultaneously. Earth's children were being born with consciousness that could perceive interdimensional space directly. Earth scientists were developing technologies that operated on principles of pure logic and mathematical necessity. The real question, Alicia said, looking out through the embassy's multidimensional windows at a sky that showed views of 17 different realities, is what we've become. Are we still human? We're what humans become when they refuse to surrender their freedom, Marcus replied. Whether that makes us more human or less human is a philosophical question that will probably occupy our descendants for centuries. And the Empire? What do they get out of this alliance? Something they've never had before. A reality that can defend itself while remaining free. We're not just allies. We're proof that their model of conquest isn't the only way to spread civilization across the interdimensional multiverse. Elena activated a display showing the current state of the alliance. We've already begun joint operations in 3 hostile dimension clusters. The Empire provides strategic coordination and logistical support. Earth provides tactical flexibility and adaptive capabilities. It's working. Better than working, Dr. Hendricks added. We're discovering new forms of physics, new types of consciousness, new ways of organizing reality itself. The alliance is accelerating discovery for both civilizations. As the meeting concluded and the various representatives prepared to return to their respective dimensions and realities, Alicia found herself reflecting on the impossible journey that had brought them to this point. 6 months ago, she had been a simple military commander concerned with supply manifests and personnel assignments. Now she was humanity's representative to an interdimensional empire, helping to negotiate the future of consciousness itself across multiple realities. Any regrets? Marcus asked, noting her thoughtful expression. About the alliance? No. About the costs? Every day. Alicia gestured toward the transformed landscape visible through the embassy windows. We saved humanity, but we transformed it beyond recognition in the process. All evolution involves transformation. The question is whether the transformation serves the values you're trying to preserve. And does it? Marcus smiled, his interdimensional features shifting through configurations that human genetics had never produced. Ask me in a few centuries. Evolution is a long-term process. As Alicia prepared to return to Earth's capital, a city that existed simultaneously in normal space and 5 parallel dimensions, she received a priority message from the interdimensional monitoring stations. New signals have been detected from dimension clusters that the Empire had never explored, possible signs of civilizations that had developed their own forms of interdimensional technology. First contact protocols are standing by. The message concluded. Ambassador Ward, your expertise in interdimensional diplomacy is requested for the preliminary evaluation. Alicia smiled. Humanity's transformation was just beginning. The alliance with the Empire had made them partners in exploring the infinite possibilities of existence itself. Whatever they had become, they were becoming it together. Surface humans, awakened underground forces, and their former enemies in the interdimensional empire, all working to understand the true scope of reality. It wasn't the future anyone had imagined, but it was a future where humanity remained free to imagine new possibilities, and that was worth any price they had paid. As she stepped through the dimensional portal that would take her home to a Earth that existed in 17 realities simultaneously, Alicia Ward, first human ambassador to the interdimensional multiverse, prepared for whatever impossible wonders awaited discovery in the infinite spaces between worlds. The magnetic field that had once protected Earth was gone forever, but humanity had learned to navigate by different stars, in dimensions where the very concept of protection had been redefined to encompass possibilities that transcended the boundaries between dream and reality. They had chosen evolution over extinction, alliance over conquest, and transformation over surrender. They had chosen to remain human while becoming something entirely new. And in the infinite expanse of the interdimensional multiverse, that choice had made all the difference.